place, a new home for a while. Let me feel alive.
Welcome back, John in the Philippines, where the road leads. And where does your road lead? Do you feel sometimes you're getting older and maybe too old to make a change to see if your road might take a major turn one way or another? Well, if you've ever been thinking about that, you might want to watch today's show. It could be for any of us that are getting older, but still our road is moving on. Check in. You might enjoy it. Hello, folks. John Allen wonders where the road leads. Great to have you back. John Allen in the Philippines, where the road leads. This is John Allen in the Philippines with Where the Road Leads. Welcome back. John Allen in the Philippines, where the road leads. Hello again. This is John in the Philippines with Where the Road Leads. And where does your road lead? Back. John in the Philippines, where the road leads. And where does your road lead? This is John Allen. I love the Philippines. It changed my life. Great to have you back. John Allen in the Philippines, where the road leads. I thought a lot about roads and where they lead. I guess I probably thought about that most of my life. When I was young, I wasn't really radical or anything, but I know a lot of people wanted me to go to this college, and I decided to go to that one. And then when I was done college, was going to go on from my master's. Almost everybody went right next door to my college, but I went 14 hours away. I don't know why, but it seems like I've always had a sense of the road going somewhere. And even until today, most of you know, I'm 76 years old, and the Philippines has really been changing my life really since I was 65 or 64. And so even though I don't live here full time, and I want to address some of you because a lot of times you hear Philippine videos and you're just thinking, well, the only choice is give up everything. I moved to Dumaguete or Iloilo or someplace, and that's it. Well, that's probably the best thing to do, but not everybody wants to do that or is able to do that. And I told you a little my story. I remember back in the 70s, mid 70s, there was a song called Landslide. You remember that? It was a Fleetwood Mac song, and I think Stevie Nicks was the main singer there. And it talks a little, it's a love song and about changing. And then one of the chorus lines goes, even children get older, and I'm getting older too. I think at the time I was 26, so I wasn't very old, but you know, sometimes at any age, 26, I'm thinking, I'm not 18 anymore. You know, life goes on. And now, when I first got connected to the Philippines, I'm 64. Well, you know, I'm not 25 anymore. I'm this age, and different things have happened. So, how about you? I just know, because I study people, I know people, I like to talk to people, but roads are very interesting. In the United States, we have a lot of roads. We have the freeway I guess the freeway system was really developed mostly in the 1950s, coast to coast and all these roads. As I've mentioned, I've done some bicycling through the United States and down into South America. So you're following roads, you can go on a dirt path or paved road or whatever we go on. But where the road leads is not really a question. It's more like where the road leads ... And I hope you take it that way. So if you listen to any of my videos, you might think, yeah, maybe old John Allen has a point here. Where does my road lead? Well, again, in my mid-20s, I hadn't really started my full-time career yet. I was from Ohio. I had my first job, so to speak, in Prescott, Arizona, which surprised me, but that's where my road led at the time. And it worked out for me, although I was a ways from my parents. And that has its challenges, as does yours. My parents retired. My dad retired the year I started in Prescott, Arizona. And so I have 4 siblings. One has since passed, but they would be around them all the time. But once a year, at my expense, I would fly Mom and Dad to Arizona, and they would stay usually 6 weeks, and I'd pay for everything. they had such a wonderful time the 10 years I was there. They got to know interesting people. I wasn't necessarily going to say this, but growing up in the 50s and 60s, we watched a lot of old westerns, and many of you know Gunsmoke started in 1975, and it went on or started in 55, it went on till 75 when it ended. And you had Chester Good, who was kind of the sidekick of Matthew Dillon, for about 11 years, and then of course Festus came in. Well, Festus was actually the son of a police officer. He grew up in eastern Colorado, and quite a character. What was interesting to me was his brother went to the church where I was connected. So, in his name, ironically, was Chester Gates. Well, no relation to the Chester who played Matt Dillon's sidekick the first 11 years, but he used to say, "Yeah, my brother Festus, he made a lot of money. He didn't really have to act much. He was just being himself." Well, I got to meet him one time, Festus. Of course, my mom and dad loved him, and they were there, and I still remember they had a picture of Festus. He gave it to him, "A whole mess of love, Festus," to Evelyn and Winnie, my parents' names. And it was just kind of cool because here was, a TV hero of mine who was at the time, I think, living in Fresno. He came to see his brother, and his brother had his own pioneering spirit. He lived out in a little town called Chino Valley, and he had proudly made his house out of 16-inch blocks, and this was adobe. He made his own adobe bricks from dirt on his own land, and if you have 16-inch adobe house, I mean, that thing is insulated. It keeps you cool in the summer, warm in the winter. He was so proud of it. I remember my first Thanksgiving I had with Chester and Evelyn. Ironically, his wife had the first name as my mother, and he said, well, John, he said, "I don't know if you've ever kind of talked like this. Have you ever had turkey?" And outside he had this old clay Mexican-style stove, and I've seen them, and they're called hornos. And in Spanish, you don't pronounce the H, but Chester didn't care. "Yeah, I'm cooking it out there in the horno, out there in the horno," and I just chuckled. So we had turkey made in this outdoor Mexican kind of clay oven, which was really, really fun. But he was a character, and of course his brother was a character and became famous, and I was so happy my folks met him. But it just seemed like here was in Ohio, small town, and up in Prescott, Arizona, which back in the day, I mean, that was the old Pioneer. They used to have like 10 times as many bars as churches. It was the territorial capital of Arizona, but now they have a few bars left out of Whiskey Row, but a lot more churches than bars these days, but still has a little bit of that rugged feel to it. That's where my road led, and without going through the details of my life, so I'm ending up at 65. I'd been divorced, had been single 10 years, had done, some dating in the US of A, which some of you know, if you're, guys, some of you ladies, as we get older, times are changing, as Stevie Nicks sang, and I'm getting older too. Well, as we get older, we're, we don't change that well. So we meet a guy or a lady, and it's not easy to change after all these years. Most people get married when they're younger and they kind of grew up together in the same way. But so dating can become very frustrating. And I know from listening to other Philippine videos that kind of drove them to the Philippines. The number one thing is budget, because a lot of us, we don't end up with a lot of money, and inflation has gone up a lot through the years. So it's, you can have freedom again. A lot of people in the United States, they go to, a lot of places in our hemisphere there. They might go to Belize. Of course, a lot of them just go to Mexico, a very safe little, town. And so I would just urge you, if you feel like the song, and I'm getting older too, are you still able to take a road that goes off this way, like this little dirt road here. You've seen it, and this someday they're going to pave this, but it's kind of the road over to the next town, which is maybe 4 miles. I like to walk it. You walk up about 1.5 miles, you level out, and you walk down, and then you get there. But this is a road. You know, a lot of roads in the world are gravel like this, people riding motorbikes and horses and so on. So what do we do with change? That's really the question. I think one of the things that stops us is fear. I still remember one time I was on this bike trip to South America, so I'm 24 during this time, and we stopped in Colombia. We were visiting somebody in Bogota. Again, we had bicycled there, so a lot of people told us, don't go to South America, and especially don't go to Colombia. Ecuador is okay, but everybody had their opinion. So a lot of people thought, well, anywhere Mexico, Central and South America is dangerous. Well, so I'm talking to this young lady, like I said, I'm 24, maybe she's 19, she's well educated, spoke some English. I spoke a little Spanish. And I said, yeah, you ought to come to the United States sometime and come and visit. And I'll never forget this. People keep asking if I have hair. I do have hair. But she said, oh no, the United States is much too dangerous. I read the newspapers, Chicago, New York City, people dying, people getting shot. Why would I ever go to such a dangerous place as the United States of America? And that just hit me that the news worldwide loves negative, they love crime, they love all of that. And so you get really skewed on the whole thing. So even the Philippines, which from what I can tell from being here off and on for 11 years and studying the area, Philippines is a very safe country. I've never yet listened to a blogger who's been really worried about for his or her life here. It's a calm country. People tend to be, they're just polite here. And the guys don't have that macho thing, like this little bridge here. If you want to show that little bridge over there, Vince. But it's a walking and a horse bridge. So we were just walking over here, and here a motorbike had stopped, and he was waiting patiently for us to come across, and then he started his bike, and then he came over. And, you know, it wasn't like honking, what are you guys doing here? This is my road. It was just, and that's kind of how I see the Philippines. Now, again, I'm here. I can't speak to Vietnam or anywhere else. I spent 3 months in Taiwan a long time ago. I'll tell you that story sometime. But this is what I know. And again, if you're taking the road, no one exactly knows where the road might lead. What I found out in life is if we focus in on a goal, and as we head for that goal, we receive energy. You know, if you're a godly person, you might say, well, you received Spirit of God to give you strength. If not, you just feel, just from focusing in on that goal, I go forward. But a lot of us, we go towards that goal and something happens, and so we end up going this way or that way. But the good news is everything we learned in heading for that goal is with us. It's going to help us if we veer from the goal this way or that way. And so it's a good thing to head for a goal. So making changes, trying to figure out where the road goes, I am asking you to consider where your road might lead. And I'm not one to say shoulda, woulda, coulda, shoulda, do this, but you know, it's a big world. It's a lot of freedom. Sure, you might be like the 19-year-old young Colombian lady who said, oh, I never come to the United States, it's too dangerous. Well, you might be feeling that way about the Philippines, about Vietnam, about Mexico, about anything. And there's probably a little bit of truth to that, but the bigger truth is, you know, when we went through 11 Latin American countries, I don't think things were safer 50 years ago. I mean, you know, yes and no. But we felt nurtured and loved all the way there. It was amazing. Had to be a little more careful in the cities. So I think I'm just going to end with that. I really appreciate comments. As you know, I'm new at this. So write a little comment, ask some question. Maybe you have a story about life changes and a change you had that got you ahead. Like I've talked about being stuck, unstuck, and not to decide is to decide. A lot of these things, I hope, connect into the greater idea of where the road leads. So be sure to check us. We try to get 2 videos a week out. I don't know if we can keep that schedule, but I'm committed to doing this for a minimum of 3 years. So hang in there with me. Take care of yourself. This is John Allen, John in the Philippines, where the road leads. And where does your road lead? God bless. Champion.
Oh, I feel so alive as I reach out to the sky. I found my way. I was in the dark against it all, but made it through the day, 'cause I found my way.